With the expectation that Tesla's Optimus humanoid robot will be coming this year with thousands being made and 50 to 100,000 next year, today let's explore how the bot might impact Tesla's own business. A few days ago, Elon Musk agreed that at some point Optimus will be contributing meaningfully towards Tesla's gross margin, saying that that will definitely happen. What jobs will Tesla's bot do first in Tesla's factories? What about their suppliers? And so forth. I've got Larry Goldberg joining us, and he's going to help us figure this out. What is the actual impact that Tesla's bot can do to Tesla themselves and their suppliers? Welcome, Larry.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Let's get started with this Elon Musk reply. Farzad had a post, and he has said this. He goes, heard on a Tesla earnings call sometime in the future. He's speculating that this will happen sometime in the future. Yeah, so Optimus has been working our production system for the last quarter, and it actually contributed meaningfully towards our gross margin. Elon replied to him saying that will definitely happen. What do you think about that? What's the likelihood that it's going to impact?
There's an absolute certainty it's going to impact.
Yeah.
So I've done quite a lot of study of the Optimus value in the factory, and it is actually mind-blowing. So there's absolutely no doubt about it. I mean, the amount of money each bot saves is quite significant. I've done a lot of study of this, and I've been studying from the perspective of a bot buyer. But if you're manufacturing the bot yourself, the savings are even greater. I don't know if you're interested in me showing you some of these numbers.
Yeah, please.
Well, let's look at what we're seeing here is, after I take into account the cost of running the bot, and by the way, my costs cover a lot. I only allow 6 bots per full-time supervisor. So for every 6 bots, I have a full-time employee managing those bots, repairing those bots, maintaining those bots, training those bots, and so on. So 1 to 6 is considered, a very, very generous ratio. Many other analysts allow up to 10 or so bots, and they don't have full-time people. But so I think that's a very good relationship. So if we care to look at these numbers, one of the interesting things about these numbers is that I've taken a net present value of 5 years of saving, and I've discounted it at 40% per annum. Why this great gigantic discount rate is because, bots are new. There's some risk related to them, but these figures you could practically double if Tesla owns the bot itself and is operating the bot. So these are the different levels of workers. The 10th percentile is the least skilled worker. This is the guy who may be cleaning, sweeping the floors, and so on. The mean, that is the average worker, is this row here. And then at the 75th percentile, you get the most the most skilled worker. And then at the 90th percentile, you get supervisors. Well, we don't think bots are going to be supervisors at the outset, certainly not in year 1. But if we take the mean, that would be, the relatively average skilled. So I think you're going to see savings in the first year of somewhere between these 2 rows. And if we look at the annual savings per bot, after fully loading all the expenses, we see that annual savings fall somewhere between 41,000 and 122,000. So the average saving per bot could be around $80,000. That's the average between the semi-skilled and the skilled worker. So total savings over 5 years is some gigantic figure per bot, 206,000 and 613,000. So you can imagine that if we're saving, let's say, the mean of $80,000 or so per bot, if you've got, I don't know, the small number of 10,000 bots, you're saving 10,000 times 80,000. You're talking about almost $1 billion of savings right there per 10,000 bots. Let's say $800 million.
Mhm.
Put 50,000 bots in, and you're over $4 billion a year. I mean, that's a real number. So, I mean, if you think about the present value of that, if you think about stock price, if you think about, whatever 50,000 bots are going to make like $1 a share, close to $1 a share impact. No, that would be $4 billion. Yeah, I mean, it's gigantic impact on the underlying profitability. $1 a share. I mean, and once you get to really large numbers, so Tesla employs 140,000, give or take, people, and if they're able to replace a third of the workforce, that would be just that huge impact, and particularly if we save them in Europe and in the US. China, of course, the difference is there's quite a significant reduction in cost of labor in China, but still, it's a big number. It's a big number.
Okay, so let's walk me through it, right? So you were expecting to have thousands this year in 2025.
Yeah.
What would these jobs do? Let's say there's, I don't know, some people saying 4,000. Let's just say 3,000 jobs, 3,000 robots. Would they all be in Giga Texas? I do have videos to show of how cars are made and factories and what kind of jobs. We can see what humans they're doing inside those factories for building cars. What's your guess of what the jobs they would do first?
The very first job is managing the warehouse. Not managing, sorry, supplying labor in the warehouse. There is a huge amount of work in just simply moving goods in and around the factory, from the warehouse on wheels to the factory. There's a mule that just drives the large trailer to the warehouse. But once you get to the warehouse, you have to move that stuff. Now, what you're looking at now is rolls of steel. That's not going to be done by a human.
Correct.
What's going to be done by human are the smaller parts, and not only move from the warehouse on wheels into the warehouse, but from the warehouse to the warehouse in the factory, the ones that are closely related to the actual machinery and positioning at the machinery. So all of the stuff that you see here is fully automated. That's not where you're going to see it. Here is somebody doing adjustments. This is classic. A lot of this work that you see right here, this gentleman here, would be possibly done by a robot. That is a higher level of skill than moving goods to and from the warehouse.
So do you think that there's 1,000? I mean, like, again, we're using the number 3,000. Would Tesla use all 3,000 this year, 2025? And would that be enough to just be pick and place in the not in this production line, but like you said, in the warehouse?
Yeah. In the factory, in the warehouses, the factory warehouses themselves, I'm certain there's 3,000 jobs. I mean, potentially 3,000 jobs. You've got 2 plants in the United States, one in Austin, one in Fremont. I think that the biggest use of robots are going to be in Fremont. Why? Because the workers in Fremont have to travel 2 to 4 hours a day each direction to get to Fremont. So much wear and tear on the workers just getting to work and back, because Fremont's too expensive to live in now. Fremont used to be, when that factory was originally built, Fremont was in the outer suburbs. People found it very inexpensive to live. Now Fremont is like in the middle of some of the most expensive property in the United States. So people have to travel a long distance in, and so the wear and tear is very high, and the cost accordingly. So this will replace a lot of that labor that is related to a lot of the movement of goods in the factory. Now, many goods move robotically on robot guided machines, mules, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a heck of a lot of putting and placement of components. And also, of course, what you see here is actually attaching components to the vehicle. But the putting and placement of components, I think, would take up a lot of the labor.
Yeah. So, like, what we're looking at here, I'm going to take down the music here, is the production line. And you're saying, which is that for this year, 2025, when they make 3,000 bots, plenty of jobs on the outskirts, cleaning, pick and place.
Yes.
What happens? Yeah.
Yeah, and unboxing. So every part comes particular, so some parts come staged, pre-staged in, devices or in packaging that enables them to be moved right up to the production line. Other parts have to be unboxed and prepped for the production line.
Yeah. Most of this is automated already, but there's certainly, I was asking somebody in a factory, 50% humans still need to work. Like it's not 100% automated. There's 50% of the things they have to do is a human needing to do something.
There's no doubt about it. These videos are always made of the most automated parts of the process.
Yeah.
What you're seeing here is this is not automated. This is actually done by a robot. Now,
A human.
By a human.
Yeah.
So that could be done by a robot. But also what's misleading is to see non-Tesla factories versus Tesla factories.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I saw a video the other day of the BMW factory at Anderson, people working on it. And there were human beings, straddling that car front to center, something you almost never see in a Tesla factory. Typically, a Tesla factory, once the production line is on its way, there's very few people within the production line. But getting that production line, and I'm talking about the assembly line, but there are many, many jobs outside of the assembly line that take a lot of people. Look, Tesla employs 140,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Take away 25,000 or 35,000 people on sales, take away another 20,000 people on service. And by the way, in the service center, there would be plenty of jobs as well. But in the factories themselves, you're looking at 80,000 people. Of those 80,000 people, you can probably take 25% of them right away and replace them with robots. That may be low, but I'm thinking that would be, a reasonable proportion.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like here that I'm just looking at Grok answering the question. They say that Fremont factory as of 2022 employed 22,000. Giga Texas as of 2022. Oh, yeah, 12,000, but that was 2022. So by now it's much higher.
Yeah,
7,000.
It's probably closer to 20,000 now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the 3,000. That's the workers, the bots that they'll create this year. Okay, what happens next year? Like when they jump to 50,000 bots, is that all Tesla? Is that going to be Tesla suppliers? What jobs will they all do?
Well, you've got to look very broadly across Tesla. You've looked at only two factories. There are many other factories that Tesla operates, or many other service centers, warehouse centers. There are many, many locations, and they're very large. I mean, last night I took my Cybertruck in for service, and that service center here in Raleigh, North Carolina, is gigantic. Just think about all the work to be done in the service center, fetching and carrying and placing and so on and so forth. So there's almost no function across Tesla where there isn't a place and an opportunity for a bot to add value and to reduce the total amount of labor, particularly the kind of labor that is, that is not very demanding in terms of skill sets at the outset. As the bot gets more and more mature, the skill sets get higher and higher and higher. But, in a service center, there's a lot of fetching and carrying, a lot. Just think about moving tires around and actually, getting tires off the rack and moving it to the car and placing it in the car. Those tires are very heavy, and the wear and tear on people in moving those tires is very significant. That's a big
Mhm.
job. I
Yeah.
watched them change a tire of mine, and I was thinking
Mhm.
to myself, wow, we need a robot here.
Yeah. I can't see it yet. Next year, right? It would be able to do certain jobs. I wouldn't say that it would be able to do 50,000 worth of jobs, and not all Tesla will need it. So Tesla has 140,000, you know, employees across the globe, and you kind of did a nice way to break it down. But I would say, if I had to guess, next year, based on what skills that the bots might do, 20,000 bots, just Tesla alone. 10, that's like pushing it.
Yeah,
So
I would say that 50,000 is a lot.
yeah.
It
So
would
where else
be
would it
an
go?
extraordinary
Suppliers?
amount of it
Yeah.
would be an extraordinary amount of skill set, training to be able to replace 50,000 jobs. And I'm not, I'm not sure that 50,000 out of 140 is a fair percentage. So I think
Yes.
you're right. I think the 20,000 is not a bad idea, not a
That
bad
would be
set.
stretching it. And then therefore the rest have to go somewhere. And so do you
Yeah.
think it would be suppliers, Tesla suppliers, when most logical? What's your path, do you think?
I think Tesla suppliers are an ideal target. There's no doubt about it. In speaking to small business owners, every one of them gets very excited about being able to deploy these robots. And I counsel them, a little bit of caution. I'm always cautious because there's an overhead to bringing in a bot and training a
Yeah.
bot and getting a bot operational. Well, the suppliers are an ideal partner for Tesla because, Tesla has this intimate relationship with their suppliers where they give the suppliers the actual designs and so on and so forth. So helping those suppliers would be very valuable indeed. And the supplier, infrastructure is gigantic for Tesla. I mean, it's gigantic. And some of the suppliers have well positioned themselves very close by Tesla plants.
Right.
And that's, on purpose.
So you've done a deep dive on suppliers. You've done a show with us where you explained the tier one, tier two, tier three suppliers. Uh, how many suppliers are there, and which ones would you think for sure? And then that would probably eat up the rest of the 30,000 bots.
If you think about the supplier infrastructure, I, it's almost impossible to determine how many suppliers supply Tesla because
Mhm.
there are about 140,000 auto suppliers across, this whole
Mhm.
industry. Now, only, a small percentage of that, maybe 5% or tier one that Tesla will deal with directly. But one of the things that Tesla teaches us is that they don't just deal with their immediate suppliers. They work with the whole chain and they work intimately with them to design and to craft exactly what they want and to help them improve their production and reduce their costs.
Mhm.
So they're ideally placed to bring robots into that environment, both at their primary supplier level, but also in their supplier's supplier level. So
Mhm.
that's going to be a very significant focus, if you want to scale from, a few thousand bots to 50,000 bots in a year. It's very challenging to do that because there's a lot of work to be done. So even in year one, they would want to be, yes, using the bots in their own factory, but they would want to be already experimenting, front running and actual adoption of robots by bringing those robots into the suppliers environment, at least their tier one suppliers, if not their tier two and tier three suppliers, to help with it. Remember, Tesla designed a lot of the equipment that the suppliers supply
Mhm.
directly. So whether it's their 48-volt system or whatever it is, Tesla actually did the design and worked with those suppliers to optimize their supply chain. So Tesla really, not their production line as well as their supply chain. So Tesla really understands the production line of their suppliers.
Okay. So let's say that there's 50,000 next year and they do suppliers and maybe even sub-suppliers, little suppliers. Do you expect that there will be customers like Pepsi? Makes sense. They already partner with Tesla Semi. Do you think that they would already test this out with people's homes as beta testing next year?
No, I
No.
don't. They could well experiment with their own homes, with Tesla employees' homes. But I think the domestic market is later than the industrial and commercial markets. Now, I talk about commercial markets because I see warehousing in supermarkets. I see warehousing in, big box stores. I see warehousing in so many areas of commerce as opposed to industry that I don't see any impediment to them bringing in, bots to Sam's or Walmart or, in addition to the Amazon warehouses and other very large warehouses. So there is an industrial aspect to this. There's a commercial aspect to this. And that market is going to be very challenging in terms of training, but the industrial and commercial, particularly larger organizations, are very well suited to the disciplines and the overhead of the training and the management. By the time we get to the second and third year, we're beginning to develop levels of skill and levels of safety of those bots to where we can start introducing them to the domestic market. But remember, that domestic market is onesies and twosies. The commercial market and the industrial market are 100s and 1000s and 10,000. So there's a huge difference in the infrastructure you require to support and to sell into those markets.
Did you see that Elon and Jeff Bezos are friendly again?
Yes, and so they should be.
And they're both going to be at the inauguration.
Yes.
But also, this, I think Jeff Bezos wished goodwill to the SpaceX, and Elon said thank you.
Yeah.
They've become friendly now. So wondering if Amazon could become a partner for robots. Obviously they need to. Amazon's robotized as much as they can already. They're going to fund as many companies as they can. They're going to beta test as many as they can.
Right.
But clearly Tesla is so far ahead. I wonder if Jeff Bezos said, can we please be a customer of yours?
It's interesting. I'm not sure that Jeff would move in that direction. I say Jeff, he's no friend of mine. I mean, I'd love to be a friend of his, but he's not a friend of mine. I think there will be a co-opetition between them. They will cooperate, I think, but they will compete. Whether Jeff would use the robots, just remember that Amazon has the breadth of investment and deep pockets to build their robots themselves. So whether they will acquire or build, I suspect that they will be in the robot business
they have
themselves.
Yeah, they have to. They all have to. Even OpenAI is now pivoted, and they're going to be in bots as well. So with we just walked me through, right? Thousands this year, 50,000 next year. It will impact gross margin. They could even help with suppliers. When will it actually show up in gross margin? When will this actual, this kind of this quarter, that earnings call, which earnings call would you actually then hear Elon say, Optimus has been working at our factories and it has already contributed meaningfully towards our gross margin?
That's an interesting question. I suspect we'll get information about what the potential contribution is by the second quarter or third quarter of next year. That's what I'm thinking. But I'm always too conservative for you. You shouldn't ask me these questions.
That's not conservative. I'm shocked. That's really soon. I was
Yeah,
going to
but
think, I would think
remember that
2027. Yeah.
you can make forward-looking statements in these quarterly meetings, and so I suspect that we would hear a forward-looking statement about the Optimus business,
Mhm.
mid of next year. Right now, we're talking about Optimus as a potential product, as a product line that they're developing.
Mhm.
But at a point in time, they would be expected to give us a review or a preview
Yeah.
of what they think could be coming down the pike.
Yeah, I agree with you. That actually is a great answer because, again, these numbers are mind-boggling. If you have
Yeah.
1,000 robots this year, even if they're all prototype, even they're just working, maybe they'll go and say, "Hey, we added to the battery division, and they already took over 3 employees out of every team, whatever." And then they might map out and say, for that particular division, it saved us this much time and money already just to kind of carry it out for forward. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm the wet blanket in this whole thing. I don't
Mhm.
think we'll see 1,000 robots this year. I
Mm.
was listened very carefully to and read very carefully what Elon said. I think if we get to a release candidate of a robot this year, I'll be very happy. If
Yeah.
we get a couple of hundred of prototypes working in the factory and in testing and in trying this and trying that, I'll be very happy. So that's where I think we're going to get to this year. We're already in the first quarter. We're not halfway through the first quarter, but we're getting there. I mean, I don't think we're at a release. I don't think we're even close to a release candidate yet. I think
Mm.
we're a release candidate for the hand, but I think they've got other work to do.
Okay.
And
Appreciate
and
that. Yeah.
and particularly working on the vision to action process.
Yeah. The training. Okay. Thank you so much, Larry. That was great. Somebody like you who's actually owned businesses, implemented, the software and so forth, what it takes. And you also did a deep dive into suppliers for Tesla. And so it was great to get your opinion on this. And it was great answers all around. Follow Larry on his X account, Tesla Larry. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.